Pakistan's northwest frontier, remote, inaccessible, and home to a revitalised and increasingly brutal Taliban. Four Corners has gained exclusive access into these forbidden zones. We'll investigate how the Taliban have busted out of their mountain strongholds to unleash a wave of violence to bring down the state of Pakistan.
It could lead to anarchy in this area.
Unless the Pakistani state takes on these terrorists, then the state itself is deeply and gravely threatened.
If they succeed, the consequences will be dire, not just for Pakistan, but for the world. Tonight on Four Corners, Pakistan on the brink. The highway west of Islamabad is Pakistan's finest. It's designed so the military can move fast, a capability that may soon be tested. We're on our way to Peshawar. It's about 200 kilometres from the capital, Islamabad. Many people are calling Peshawar the new front line in the war on terrorism. Most of the city is surrounded by the Taliban, so we're going to go there and investigate and just see how bad the situation is. Peshawar is the gateway to the Taliban heartlands of the northwest frontier and the federally administered tribal areas. The Taliban are gunning for Peshawar. If they take this city, the rest of the country is seriously under threat. Foreign journalists don't come here anymore, and the only way I can get around is with a police patrol. It's the police who are the first line of defence here. They put on a brave face, but some refuse to serve. Just in the last week, the Taliban has bombed 2 of their checkpoints.
We don't have the resources. Our country is a poor country, and then our province is one of the poorest provinces in this country. Basically, we need bulletproof jackets, we need transport, mobility, proper wireless systems, and equipment for collection of intelligence, tracking of mobile phones, tracking of vehicles, and aerial surveillance, so that we know what is happening in and around the cities and in the peripheries.
It's easy for the Taliban to infiltrate the city, and once inside, they resort to killing or kidnapping. In the last several months, we've seen a US diplomat narrowly escape assassination. An American aid worker was killed. Afghani and Iranian diplomats were kidnapped. In the last year, the Taliban and its associated groups have kidnapped 140 people.
Assalamu alaikum, Wasima.
It's dangerous to move alone, so I joined up with Shaukat Khattak, a senior local journalist. He's watched his hometown become a war zone.
Even the army was called in, and they have conducted a huge offensive to combat against such elements which are posing threats to Peshawar.
Our visit downtown will be short. No more than 15 minutes in any one place to avoid kidnap or attack.
So where are we going to go?
It's called Qissa Khani Bazaar, one of the historic bazaar of Peshawar.
2 years ago, a foreigner could spend the evenings taking tea and haggling with local rug merchants. Now, there are merchants of a very different kind. Last December, the Taliban blew the Kisahani Bazaar sky high. The target was Shiite businesses, heretics to the hardline Sunni Taliban. Shaukat Khattak was first on the scene.
This was the place where suicide attack took place some months ago, and all the shops were burnt, and you can see still the demolition up, and you can see about 40 people killed in this blast.
The locals are doing their best to repair the damage, but the shopkeepers fear more attacks.
At the moment, I'm very much, disheartened about the situation which is developing across Pakistan. My opinion is that it is going worse and every day, every next day, and I'm not that much optimistic about the situation.
Shaukat Khattak and his colleagues are not exempt from the conflict. Fall foul of the Taliban and you may die. Tell the world the militants are winning and you'll face the wrath of Pakistan's security forces. How many of your colleagues have been killed?
About 9 journalists were killed after this war on terror. I think...
some of your closest friends?
Yeah, my closest friend, Hayatullah, was my close friend who was killed in North Waziristan.
Why do you keep on doing it if it's so dangerous?
It's a profession. Though there are serious threats, but it's my aim that I'll continue this profession because it's in my blood.
Despite the dangers, Shaukat Khattak agreed to venture inside the Taliban Badlands for 4 corners. Just outside Peshawar, Shaukat Khattak makes his first contact with the Taliban. Foreign reporters are absolutely forbidden. A truckload of militants take him deeper and deeper into Taliban territory, the federally administered tribal areas known as Fatah. For more than 20 years, the Fatah has been dominated by this man, Jalaluddin Haqqani, godfather to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. He is credited with revitalising the Taliban movement and the man who brought suicide bombings to Afghanistan and Pakistan. His skills were forged fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan. Now stricken with Parkinson's disease, he's passed the mantle onto the next generation and another holy war. Hakimullah Masood is one of those successes and the very visible face of the new Taliban. Shaukat Khattak and other local reporters are brought to meet Masood and other commanders who have united to form a stronger and deadlier Taliban. Their aim, to bring down the state of Pakistan.
को छोड़ दिए तो हम पेशावर कबाइल से और इलाके पर हम कब्जा नहीं करना चाहते। अगर पाकिस्तानी कायदीन और पाकिस्तानी फ़ौज की यही किरदार होगी तो हम मजबूर है पेशावर पर भी कब्जा कर लेंगे, हंगू पर कब्जा कर लेंगे, पाकिस्तान के गुट पर हम कब्जा कर लेंगे, कोशिश कर लेंगे इंशाल्लाह।
Masood says the Pakistan government and the army are to be destroyed for joining the American fight to wipe out the Taliban in Pakistan.
دا د امریکایانو خلق دي د امریکایانو په پروګرام راغلي دي د امریکایانو سره د دوی یوه معاهده ده هغه معاهده سر ته رسول غواړي پاکستان په ټوکړو تقسیمول غواړي.
Masood's threats are no idle boast. Nearby, Shavkat Katak is taken to witness hundreds of tribesmen being recruited into the new Taliban. With more men and more weapons, Hakimullah Masood has started to shake Pakistan to its core. Last year, they crippled the country with 60 suicide bombers. The Marriott Hotel in the heart of Islamabad was destroyed with 1,000 kilograms of explosives. It was the biggest blast the country and the region had ever seen. Then they derailed the democratic process by assassinating the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto, on her comeback trail. The West wanted her to lead the country to some stability. The Taliban put an end to that. Last December, there was an even more fearful development. Masood led about 300 militants into the heart of Peshawar to a NATO storage facility. For hours, and totally unhindered, they destroyed about 100 trucks and Humvees. The carnage forced the closure of NATO's main supply route into Afghanistan. The attack showed just how capable the Taliban have become as a military force. Pakistan is now more deadly than Iraq, and it's not going to stop.
اوس بل دا ده چې کوم تاسو جنگ چې شروع ده دا به تر کومه پورې وي لکه پاکستان د کومو علاقو پورې به دا جنگ روان وي؟
اوس پیغمبر علیه الصلاة والسلام فرمایي الجهاد ماضٍ الی یوم القیامه جهاد به تر ورځې قیامت پورې جاري وي. مزید حملې به تیزې ورباندې انشاءالله.
Hakimullah Masood is so confident, he turns up to his own press conference in a stolen Humvee. But Masood has a bolder announcement for Shavkat Katak. He's proclaimed as the new emir of the central provinces of Fatah.
نو موږ د غي امتیان زموږ سره به توره همیشه په لاس کې دا موږ چاته نه جمع کوي.
With the agencies of Orakzai, Karam and Khyber under Masood's control, this completes the Taliban domination of Fatah. They've declared an Islamic Taliban state. For Shavkat Katak, it was big news. But as he returned to Peshawar, he was intercepted by Pakistan intelligence, who tried to confiscate his tapes to stop the news of the Taliban's latest success getting out. The Pakistan military is just as controlling with foreign media. Since 2004, the Pakistan army has launched repeated attacks against the Taliban in the tribal areas, with little effect. The only place I'm allowed to visit is a tiny area of army control in Taliban territory. It's called Bajaur, nestled at the very top of the now Taliban-dominated Fatah. Flying in, it's easy to see why the Pakistan army has had little success in rooting out the Taliban and Al-Qaeda from their mountain bases. The terrain is a nightmare for a conventionally trained army. In the ravines and mountaintops, the army is not fighting terrorism, but a full-blown insurgency. The Pakistan army has been bogged down here for 6 months. It's no surprise my stay in Bajaur will be limited to just 3 hours. First stop is a former Taliban base. It was here that the army discovered they were not fighting a ragtag militia.
This was actually their main headquarters, and the most interesting thing we came to know about this compound was these tunnels. Actually, you can see this one is about 14 feet deep, and then there is a room where I am standing. The miscreants would use it as their hide, and you throw anything on them, it would not affect them.
An extensive network of tunnels was uncovered across the entire area. It's pretty flaky, as you can hear. These tunnels are tiny. I mean, literally, you've got to really squeeze to get through. They crisscross all of Bajaur. It's where the militants used to come in and hide and move around and store their arms. And it really demonstrates that the military is going to have a big problem flushing out the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in the northwest of Pakistan. It made fighting the Taliban near impossible here because they could vanish and resurface anywhere.
They would come from that tunnel, get inside these compounds, fight the army, and then once they attacked, they would vanish.
So it was harder to flush them out because of this, yeah?
Yes. Definitely, you have not seen this anywhere in our country.
It's quite, would you say it's quite sophisticated, the way that
Yes. You can see it yourself. It is quite sophisticated, and, it took them a long time to dig these tunnels.
The senior Taliban leadership that operated at this base escaped to the mountains. The Pakistan army controls this main road and the surrounding plains, but they can claim little else.
So this is the battalion headquarters, battalion tactical headquarters. This is the shell-proof bunkers, where we can remain safe against shellings, enemy rockets, mortars. So that is part of our routine.
The army is still having trouble clearing the Taliban from this area. And they're all around or in one position?
Yeah, all around, yep. Not towards our side, it is out towards west, south, east.
So you're still cleaning them out?
Yeah, so these are suspected positions, miscreant positions.
And you'll be some time before you clean out these positions, do you think?
No, almost the peace has been established. We have security area. Alhamdulillah, there is no problem, no, not much.
The Bajaur campaign was supposed to be over in a month, but since last September, they've made little headway. It's been a costly campaign. The Pakistanis have lost more men here than NATO did in Afghanistan during the same period. On the ground, the army admits they weren't properly prepared when they first attacked.
We never have had any idea, in fact, as to the situation would be like this. But as soon
Why?
as...
What were you surprised about? Tell me.
Because they are better prepared. We never, estimated them to be that, well prepared. The amount of weapons that has gone into the complete event, the way they have handled us, the complete trained army.
These men are training for their next and more dangerous phase. Soon they'll move to take on the Taliban in their mountain strongholds. It'll be a crucial fight, both for Pakistan and Afghanistan. Bajaur is the jihadi highway between the two battlefields. But the fight so far could prove counterproductive. To get a foothold into Bajaur, the army destroyed it. This was the capital, Loisam. About 8,000 people lived here. All the shops and houses have been completely razed. There's not a living soul here.
So why was there so much destruction here?
Well, this place is known as Loisam, and this was the main headquarters of the Taliban. And each and every house was a militant house. We faced resistance from each and every compound. So we had to take this action as government wanted it to clear it off.
So the whole area was cleared of houses, shops?
Well, we used force also, infantry, army, air force. We had to use air also at this place. And then at later stages, we used bulldozers to clean this area.
Civilians did die here, but the army won't allow any investigation to determine how many. Thousands also fled for their lives. The danger is these scorched earth tactics may create more support for the Taliban. On the outskirts of Peshawar, I tracked down many of the civilians who escaped from the fighting in Bajaur. They're now living in this refugee camp, bewildered, angry. The conflict in Bajaur has displaced 300,000 people. Mohammed Zahir and his family are lucky to be alive. They fled just before a Pakistan missile demolished their house.
طالبانو بمله وکړله حکومت به قوم رئیسار کو هم په جازونو باندې بیباون جازونو براتله سیب هلیکاپټر یې براتلی دا غزینې دا غټ توپونه چالان کړه دا پته نه لګېده چې کوم ځای وشته او کوم ځای نه وشته کورونه پکې ولګېده ډېر ماشومان او زنانه پکې شهیدانې شوې زموږ خوا او شاته نو هر سړی په یېره بس راتښتېدلی دی.
Today is a good day for Mohammed Zahir. He received his rations. He can feed his 9 children. Other days they go hungry. The rage at this camp is not directed against the Taliban, but the Pakistan army. Mohammed says it's easy to understand why civilians become terrorists when they've lost their homes and livelihoods.
زمونږ ځای کې یو کور باندې یو حاجي صاحب پروس کالي حج کړی و د هغه حاجي صاحب و د هغه ښځه د هغه یو نوسۍ یوه لور دا پکې شاید مړی شوي شاید د بیباون تیاره دغه بمبارۍ کې مړی شوي د هغې ماشوم یو غوږ پیدا شوی و د مخکې ورځو کې ټول خپل پردیو ته راټول شوي و والی پکې و هغې ته ایرونه کول او جړاګانې کولې یعنې د مړي 2-3 میاشتې هم شوي وي نو هغه خلک چې کوم دی غوسه نه هغه خودکشه ته تیارېږي.
Having consolidated their rule in the Fatah, the Taliban are reaching deeper into Pakistan proper. They've taken over the province of Swat. Shaukat Khattak heard horror stories from people fleeing. He wanted to investigate, so we sent him in. Like Fatah, it's a no-go zone for foreign reporters. Swat is another sizable chunk of the nation that's fallen to the Taliban. It's also the militants' furthest advanced yet to the capital, Islamabad. Swat was famous for its river valleys, fruit orchards and rose gardens. The Pakistanis call it their Switzerland. The Taliban rule here is particularly brutal. The Taliban want to raise Swat to the ground and begin again. To start with, they've destroyed 187 schools. Under the Taliban, girls' education is forbidden. This school was demolished the day before Shaukat Khattak arrived. People are still picking over the ruins of what was one of the biggest schools in Swat. 80,000 girls are now confined to their homes. One was brave enough to speak out.
अगर अब हमें बहुत ज़्यादा सिक्योरिटी मिले या कुछ भी मिले लेकिन अब हमारे दिलों में खौफ है अब हम नहीं जा पाएंगे क्योंकि तालिबान की तरफ से ये भी धमकी मिली थी कि हम उस स्कूल की बिल्डिंग को उड़ा देंगे और तालिबान बहुत ज़्यादा गुस्से में है और उन्होंने और अब साथ के हालात तो और भी ख़राब होने जा रहे हैं.
Muhammad Ali runs one of the few schools left open in Swat's capital, Mingora. He closed down his girls' section, but he's determined to keep the boys educated. It's been his life's work. The school is run by a charity and most of the boys are orphans. But Muhammad Ali is running out of money as most of the patrons have left town.
हुकूमत है कि नहीं है हमें तो ये महसूस है कि हुकूमत नहीं है बिल्कुल ख़त्म हुआ है
क्यों तालिबान इतने पावरफुल हुए क्या वजह थी कि क्या उनको ये सारी चीज़ें हवाले की गई लग तो कुछ ही हो रहा है फौजी ऑपरेशन भी जारी है लेकिन वो रोज़ बरोज़ तरक्की कर रहे हैं
ये सोच से बलातर है इसका जवाब कोई नहीं दे सकेगा आपको कि क्या हो रहा है या किस तरह हुआ
The Taliban seize power by killing all rivals. Tribal leaders, political opposition, police, anyone. They create a power vacuum and move in. At SWAT, they've taken this to a new level. Every morning at the town square, they leave their latest victims for all to see. This morning, it's a decapitated body of a policeman. Eventually, his colleagues pick up his corpse. This gruesome ritual has been going on for 6 months. It's an effective way to terrorise people into submission. No one knows who's going to be next.
बस लोगों की फीलिंग तो ये है कि मतलब कि 100% लोग जो है ना ज़हनी मरीज़ बन गए हैं सारे मरीज़ हैं अगर आप सर्वे करें तो मेरे ख्याल में हर कोई आपको यही मायूसी का जवाब देगा कि पता नहीं ये स्वाद किस तरह ठीक होगा कब ठीक होगा कैसे ठीक होगा तो सब मतलब कि लोग डर रहे हैं खौफ वेरास हैं
The Taliban has silenced dissent and also crippled the local economy. The latest edict is that women are not allowed to go to the markets. Only a few venture here now, so shopkeepers are closing down their businesses. On Shaukat Khatak's trip, most were reluctant to talk with him on camera. The shopkeepers know to openly criticise the Taliban means death.
क्यों लोग इतने खौफज़दा है कि अब एक ऐलान के साथ लोगों में खौफ है
ये नहीं बता सकता ये नहीं बता सकता
तो क्यों वजह क्या है
बस ये नहीं बता सकता आप ये तो आपको भी मालूम है हमें भी मालूम है
To heighten the fear, the Taliban hide their identities. They now control 1.3 million people in Swat, collecting taxes, patrolling their territory and meting out justice in the mosque. Their local leader, Mullah Fazlullah, is never seen. He issues decrees over the radio and on billboards. His loyal henchmen enforce the orders.
الله رب العزت زمون استادو د پاره یو ضابطه حیات را لګلره دې د پاره چې زمون استادو لین دین معاملات هر څه چې هغه په دې باندې حل کړی شي
Taliban justice is applied at all levels, from brutal beheadings to the seemingly benign. These two butchers are being punished today because they were caught selling meat that was not prepared in the Islamic way. Last week, Taliban rule in Swat received another boost. The Pakistan government struck a peace deal that suspends military action and allows Sharia law here. Those who can have fled. The elite, the educated, the professional, like this family. For their safety, we won't reveal their identity or location. Like most in Swat, they can't understand why the government seems so powerless. All this little girl can do is write a plea for help in the hope that someone listens and acts.
और स्वात में लड़कियों का मुस्तकबिल जो है वो बिल्कुल तबाह हो जाएगा और अगर हम तालीम से महरूम रह गए तो हमारा मुस्तकबिल तबाह हो जाएगा और हम अपने लिए भी कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे और दूसरों के लिए भी कुछ नहीं कर सकेंगे। और बाज़ जो हमारे स्कूल की टीचर्स है या इस तरह जो जॉब कर रही है जो लेडीज़, तो उनमें बाज़ इस तरह भी है जी सिर्फ अपने ख़ानदान के सिर्फ एक शख्स होता है।
I came back to Islamabad to get some answers. But the nation's capital reminds me of Baghdad, a city under siege. To protect itself from constant Taliban attacks, the government has fortified the city with checkpoints and barricades. Samina Ahmed is head of the International Crisis Group in Pakistan.
Has this city changed?
It looks like it's a battleground. You have armed guards at everybody's homes. You have paramilitary police, barricades.
It's like a war zone, huh?
It is like a war zone. And that in a year's time.
She's warning there's worse to come.
It's very fragile at the moment because there's not just one set of challenges, there are multiple challenges. There are political challenges, there are security challenges, there are economic challenges, and they've all come together at once.
Walled up behind security barriers, many see the government as being out of touch and ineffective.
I, Asif Zardari, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Pakistan.
The new civilian government, led by President Zardari, is struggling to establish itself after 9 years of military dictatorship under General Musharraf. Frazana Raja is a government spokesperson and protege of Benazir Bhutto. Remarkably, she claims progress is being made against the Taliban in the northwest.
So now the situation is different. We have adopted 3 Ds policies. 3 Ds means number 1 is dialogue, number 2 is development, number 3 is deterrence. So we have to have dialogue with the people who are living there, who are the natives, who are the tribals, and who wants peace.
The militants, whether you like it or not, are firmly in control in the Fatah and in SWAT in particular. There is no government there, that the government in fact has gone, that it's crumbled, that the state doesn't exist there.
No, it's not like that. The state is not there. State is there to protect them. I can tell you.
But how are they protecting them?
I tell you one thing. Of course, the protection, security agencies are there, police forces are there. We understand to fight, to have a fight with terrorists and terrorism. It's not an easy task, but. Of course, we don't have to surrender before them. We have to fight back. And the policy now we have adopted, I think you will see the difference within a month.
The military, for its part, blames the government for the lack of success. They say there's been no civilian program backing the military operations in Bajour and Swat.
The enemy is very elusive. And victory is not an event, it is a process. And this process also includes more than military effort, it includes civilian effort. So therefore, as I said, that unless and until the civilian effort is on the heels of military operation, military can only bring a security situation to a level where it stabilizes temporarily. But then, unless and until the civilian effort is on the heels, the success of chances are very low in this.
If there is a sustained democratic transition, then this country could be a real asset. A country of 170 million Muslims, which is a stable democracy. But it hangs in the balance right now. No way of telling which way it will go.
While Islamabad plays the blame game, the Taliban are opening up a second front in their assault on Pakistan. Karachi, Deep in the south of the country is a giant sprawling city of about 15 million on the Arabian Sea. Just as the mountains of the northwest have proved impenetrable to the Pakistan army, whole sections of this city are now no-go zones.
So where are we going now, Asif?
Banaras.
Banaras?
In a Pashtun area. Banaras is a Pashtun area where the mainly Pashtuns are from North Waziristan, from the NWFP, from the northwest part of Pakistan.
There are more than 1 million Pashtuns from the Fatah and the northwest frontier here. Creating Taliban cells is all too easy. They blend in, and the state has little, if no presence here. Of late, the Taliban presence has been bolstered. Pakistan and US attacks in the north have seen hardcore Taliban make Karachi their new sanctuary.
अरशद वली कहाँ हो? तो मैं भी मेन चौक पे खड़ा हूँ और रेंजर्स वालों की गाड़ी नजर आ रही तुम्हें?
We're just waiting for our contact to come and so we can be secure and he can show us around. Initially, our contact says filming will be no problem.
Hi, how are you?
Banaras में? He is telling that I am with you. Don't feel insecure.
It's no problem as long as we stay in the car. In the end, we're limited to a 10-minute drive-by in the city slums. The Taliban may prove elusive, but their weaponry is on show for all to see. In the centre of town, the police display an arsenal confiscated from an arms dealer. His client, Karachi-based Taliban.
कोई ऐसी बात नहीं कि कोई सियासी जमायत शामिल है इसमें एक्चुअली ये दहशतगर्दों को देता है बस भी दहशतगर्दों को देता है और मुख्तलिफ जो क्रिमिनल लोग हैं उनको देता है
For the police, it's a minor victory, but they can't stop the flow. This is the third haul in a week.
7 अदद क्लैशनकोव हैं 222 राइफल एक 8 अदद 44 बोर की राइफलें हैं 2 8mm राइफल्स हैं 2 TT पिस्टल हैं और 11 हैंड ग्रेनेड हैं जबकि गोलियां तकरीबन 5000 से ज़्यादा हैं.
It's enough weaponry for a major terrorist attack. Indeed, the militants who left the shores of this city 3 months ago to terrorise Mumbai, killing more than 170 people, had a similar-sized arsenal. And this is what is worrying the head of police intelligence, Jawad Bakari. He manages 500 men with an extensive network of informers. He says the Taliban and other extremist groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Lashkar-Javangi are now joining forces for more attacks. Is there any coordination or cooperation between these groups?
Yes, as I said, they are. They rather complement and supplement each other.
And how do they do that exactly? Would they go on a combined mission together, or what would they do exactly?
You see, they work in compartmentalization like any other such organizations. Like someone is raising funds, someone is planning, someone is preparing suicide bombers, and someone is dispatching suicide bomber. Like someone is monitoring those activities. So they do get foot soldiers. There are a lot of foot soldiers. Those who act as the terrorist suicide bombers.
Karachi is not only providing the weapons, but the mentality for violent jihad. Foreigners are not usually allowed inside madrasas or Islamic schools. But today, we've been given rare access to visit Jama Benoria Madrasa. They do little else here but learn and study the Quran. There are about 4,000 students here from 29 countries. Like most, This madrasa is a self-contained community that feeds, clothes and accommodates its students. Many are poor who couldn't afford an education elsewhere. There are more than 2,000 madrasas in Karachi, far out of reach of government control. And some do indoctrinate their students with violent jihad. Mufti Naeem is in charge and watches over his flock with 20 security cameras. His madrasa, he claims, is a moderate one.
कि जी यहाँ टेररिस्ट पैदा कर रहे हैं ये बिल्कुल झूठ है और मैं अपने बारे में और कह सकता हूँ और कराची के इदारों के बारे में यहाँ कोई ऐसा टेररिस्ट नहीं बनाया जा रहा बाकी तमाम इदारों में क्या होता है मुझे उसका कुछ इल्म नहीं जो मैं कह सकूँ
Saud Nadim is one of the foreign students from Saudi Arabia. He says his mission is to spread Islam and create a society governed by the Holy Quran.
I would wish that we have, we have the law according to the Sharia and according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, because this is the main purpose of humanity. This is the main purpose of being a Muslim and of the humanity, all of them.
What do you think about the Taliban, their system, say, in Afghanistan?
Sir, please don't ask like this question from us students.
But when I started to ask Saud questions about jihad and his support of the Taliban, my visit was terminated by the minder. He told me if I didn't leave, my tapes would be crushed. So I headed for the Banori Town Madrasa, an institute known for its radicalism. But it didn't get any better. Known as the University of Holy War, I only managed to film it for about 10 seconds. From here, fatwas or Islamic laws have been delivered that justify violent jihad and suicide bombings. We just had to leave the area. My local contact was told by the madrasa staff that foreigners with cameras are forbidden. What is known about the Banori Town Madrasa is that most of the senior Taliban leadership was schooled and mentored there. In fact, it seems almost every extremist Islamic group operating in South Asia has some ideological roots there. On my last day of filming in Pakistan, I travelled with a police crew at Scorched in Karachi. They're a pretty ragtag bunch, but they know the slums of this city are the new urban Taliban Badlands. This is where the Masood clan live. They take their orders directly from Hakimullah Masood, the new Taliban leader we filmed in the Fatah. Last month, the police busted open a Taliban cell of 35 at this compound. A gunfight followed, and Commander Hadi Bex lost 2 of his men.
दुश्मन है ये मुल्क दुश्मन अनासर हैं कोई जो है ना वो जो भी कर रहा है हमारे मुल्क के खिलाफ कर रहा है इसको जो है ना ये तो 2 जवान शहीद हुए हैं हम जितने भी होंगे इंशाल्लाह जो है ना हम करते रहेंगे ये जो है तो बिल्कुल हम लोग पीछे नहीं हटेंगे
Hadi Bex and his men probably saved the city from a major terrorist attack. The Taliban fled, but inside their hideout they found large stockpiles of weapons and chemicals.
हमारे जितने भी हैं ये जो है ना इसको उस हिसाब से नहीं देखते हैं कि ये मुल्क के जो है ना वफादार हैं नहीं ये जो भी हैं मुल्क के गद्दार हैं कराची के लिए क्या पूरे पाकिस्तान के लिए पूरी मुस्लिम उम्मा के लिए ये खतरा है पूरी दुनिया के लिए ये खतरा है इसको जो है ना इनके साथ हम लोग लड़ते रहेंगे इंशाल्लाह आखिरी दम तक
The police commander's confidence is little more than a brave face. From the Fatah to the northwest frontier and to Karachi, Pakistan, the democratic state is teetering.